Welcome everyone. Our today's topic is Anglo Norman Age. Let's start the topic directly as it is going to be a bit longer lecture. And here we are having our first slide for the lecture, Anglo Norman Age. And you can see the history in the Anglo Norman world, and this lecture is prepared by me, Kashyap Deepak. And as we know that Normans attacked on England, and they are coming from the French territory. They fought at the area called Hastings in 1066, and from here begins the domination. And you can see in the picture itself that Normans are coming in their boats, and they are landed on the shore of Hastings and hence battle. You can see their weapons, their armies are fighting with one another. But the thing that comes in our mind, why they attacked England, or you can say Hastings, and a simple answer is, as you can see in the top of the picture, some refuse, money, home, and sources. These are some important things that you can find. Each country which is invading other countries mostly for the money or sources, land, and if possible women too. Even all the country including India is invaded in the same way for the money purpose. And here you can see that these people are fighting in army, but at the end of the battle victorious were the Normans, and Saxons defeated in the same way they started their territory, by the war. War was a thing with which they established their domination in England, and it was the same thing with which they are defeated and remains extinct from the land since the year 1066. Now they are part of history, so does the Norman, but let's go on. This is the famous picture of William the Normandy, the king, who defeated Saxons earlier, and now all the kingdom of England was under him. There were several new changes that are coming in the culture, language, literature, and even the economy of England at that time. And that king changed the history of England in several ways. And he brought an army with him, and he says, "Guy, if you win this, we will get Hastings." And this is how William Normandy advising his army, and with this confidence, they attacked on Saxons and get the victory, and whole of England was of theirs. And this is how you can imagine the battlefield, and they are fighting and lost of Saxons, and the beginning era for Normans. And you can see the battle, how these were killed, and this picture defined the battle and how hard for them to fight with these horse kind of things, and how they attacked with one another. But ultimately, one was the winner at the end of the battle. And lastly, one is the winner and other is the loser. So the crown goes to the another one. And this is Anglo-Saxons history we have. We are not going to in the deeper of the historical side, because our main focus will remain on literature, so not much part of the history. But you can see this Norman conquest, what they did. They changed various things, and this picture defined legendary, some art, some craft, and stone man is that time era, and that is culture again changed. And the scientific invention like ship, boat making, and other things. And these were the things that we have, and that was the structure of their kingdom during this Norman era. And the king was the superior, and then their chief knights, and then bourgeois royal knights, and then some villeins, and then borders and slaves. The last number are the slaves. Slaves means workers or other people, and these have no status in life. And sometimes women are also considered in this slave category because they stay mostly inside homes, and these things that we have, these borders are mostly the traders and so on. And this is the structure that we have. And instead of defining the most important movement, like king has the superpower at that time, and no one can question king, and that's why he become cruel and very, some it is said that too much power corrupt. And this happened with the king and cruelty inflicted upon the people. And being superiority means he disrespected all, either it is tenant in chief, subtenant, knight, sockman, birds, or royal knights, so all having no value. So in the time then, it is decided that the king of power should be reduced and all must have more power. And that time the king's power are reduced, and surely the power of church remain more stronger as compared to other. And with this reducing of power, we have in history Magna Carta. And then you can see through this picture, when the power of king was more than the other people say that you should sign that your powers will be limited, and whatever the crimes you do, you will be facing the same crime, or all people will have liberty. If you apply some laws and regulation, it will also applicable on you. And this you can see through this picture that king signed and stamped on the Magna Carta. And all people were happy, and king thought that he still have some loyal person, but they also discarded him. And now king remains alone, his powers were very limited in that sense. And this is what king has, and that is why King John is considered the weakest king of England even till date, because he was the one who signed this Magna Carta. What is this Magna Carta? If you look at Magna Carta, it's a document of liberty and fundamental rights. And with this, all rights of king or the common people become same. Although kings rule for king and common people could not be same, but at least on the paper, this Magna Carta is more important, because it is considered that it is the first time that democracy was introduced, because it is considered the democratic papers, because it reduced the power of king. More importantly, this is also considered Constitution of England. As we know, the modern England has no constitution of its own, and all the rule and ethics it is following. That is why it is considered that Magna Carta is the first constitution of the world, and it was here. And Magna Carta defined all rights, and since 1214, so somewhere the people of England are following it. And even sometime question in UGC net appears that what is Magna Carta, and it simply says Magna Carta is the beginning of democracy, or the rights or the rules for kings are reduced, and power is gone with the common people and other. And it continued for a long time till Henry the VIII took power in his hand, and he established more superiority of king over other noblemen. And if you look at the characteristics of this age in literature, because we are covering more about literature, not about the historical part, and then you will see most of its authors are unknown and inspired by old history, old English poetry, probably from Anglo Saxons, and covered wide range of subjects. And these were religious, secular, Christ or Christian themes, Jews themes, and everything is there. Inclusion of French and Latin words, because we know that Normans were from French territory, and that's why impact of other languages is there. Whatever the country is made by another country, impact of their language, culture, writing, and even architecture is seen there. That brought changes in grammar and syntax. If a new language is coming, so does the change in grammar and syntaxes. Highly didactic, reflective, and meditative. These are some characteristics of literature or the writings or the works or poems or epic that were published at that time. And now we will jump to these epic books, poetry or histories or prose or romances after one after another. But it does not mean that all poetry is included. There are several things that are left out. Only the important ones are included. It might possible that several included are left, but I try to include as much as I can. And here it is. First is Layman's Brut. That is a poem that we have, and it is written by. It is inspired from Geoffrey Monmouth Historia Regum Britannia, or History of the King of Britain, and it laid foundation of Layman's poem Le Brut. The poem is based on base French translation called Roman de Brut. It can be called the first national epic in English. I say it can be called, but some most of time it is said that Beowulf is the first national epic in English as per the timeline. But if you go as per the structure, then this poem can be called true epic, because it is having 32,241 lines. But the line of Beowulf are less. If in case of epic, it is a long narrative poem that is defining some heroic deeds, and in the end something majestic come. And in that case, there is always war also. In case of that, everything is here, but in Beowulf the line are less in number. So Layman sing the glory of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table in the first part, in the first time in English literature. This King Arthur is the most important character, and it is said that he lived somewhere around 5th century. That is the entry point of Anglo-Saxon, and there are several tales related to this King Arthur, and this Layamon the Great also speak about this, and it gives pictorial description of a life of Saxon warrior, that bloodshed battle, wildlife, and life in the forest, fields, rather than chivalry and romance of Norman court. He has set a story of King Arthur with a different background, and there is a dramatic force, simplicity, lucidity of expression, and splendor of the old epic poem. So you can find everything here, though there are various dialects used in the poem, but it asserts national identity, because King Arthur is mostly associated with the unity of England. Although much is not known about King Arthur, yet there is something, and what we have somewhere around 12th century, at the opening of 13th century, we have this poem which arrests the history or the life of King Arthur, that he exists at least. And sometime you can see Alfred Tennyson also write a poem on King Arthur. Second is Nicholas de Guildford, The Owl and the Nightingale. That you can see the exact title from the left side of the book. Here you are having owl, and here you are having nightingale, and that is a debate between nightingale and the owl. It contains 1,794 lines in octosyllabic couplet. And that debate is very systematic. And if you look at a nightingale enters into argument with the owl. The nightingale is disturbed by the sight of the owl while singing its song. Sometimes a nightingale is singing, and on the front there was an owl, and she was disturbed by the sight. And nightingale despises the owl and abuses the bird. And then the abusement of the owl by that, and both the nightingale and owl attack each other by using harsh word. You know, when two people start fighting, if they are not fighting by hands, then they start fighting by the words, and wrong word, dirty word, harsh word, slang, all are there. They're called over the singing capacity and the manner of life of each other. And sometimes you are not good singer, or you are not singer. So the owl questions the value of the nightingale song. What does it mean? Nightingale consider her song superior than the owl song, and Nightingale state that the clerk and the monks make songs and praises the glory of God and adds music to the melody and their song by the singing. And simply means so when the people are singing song in the praise of God, my sound can be used as a music, and in this way we are connected to more to God. On the other hand, Oval state that man cannot enter into God's kingdom with merely singing a song. Man must remember his sin and repent of them. And Oval represent moral earnestness and value of ascetic life. Nightingale stand for new thought of life. The Nightingale summons a number of birds to settle the issue of their supremacy. Many songbirds stand by side of the Nightingale, and that is the fight of who can reach to God in less. And that is the main theme of this poem, and that is a very important poem of that. And the poem vividly represents two ways of life, the serious and ascetic and worldly and joyous view of life. The poem is more like an allegory and it is pregnant with the immense meaning. Though the poem is laden with many tedious passages and repetition, its style is lucid and smooth. Nightingale represent indifferent youth, whereas Owl stand for the wisdom of the age. The final verdict of Master Nicholas is not known and left in dark. That is known because we do not know who is the winner at the end of the poem. The Nightingale is hopeful of reaching God and winning heaven with its melodious song. The Owl puts stress on the need of self-examination and good deeds and bravery. It is interesting to note that the poet is inclined to the side with the Owl, but the final judgment of Master Nicholas is not clear. One thing is clear that both the birds are pious, though they have different views to reach God. So this is what we have from this poem, and this poem is one of the most important poem of Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Norman era, sorry. And the next poem that we have is Winner and Waster. And this poem is on older title is called Winner and Waster, published 1352, and it is again alliterative poem having 500 lines. It deals with the contemporary economic crisis of time. The poem is written in Northwest Midland dialect and is highly symbolic. And it is similar like the debate we are having Old and the Nightingale. It is a dream poem, and narrator sees two armies in the plain, and two armies represent two classes of society. What are these two classes? They are the winner, that is richer or winner who possesses money. So all the money rests with these winners, and they are wealthy people in the society. The other class is of waster, that is poor, and they represent the people who spend the money. Pope and the greedy friars belong to the former, and nobility and soldiery is to the later. In the final part, kings send the Wester to the markets of London to boost up the economy, and the winner to the rich courts of Pope and the Cardinal. Poem in overall capacity can be compared with William Langland's famous poem Pious Diplomat. And this is we have this poem, and from the picture that is the book, you can see the winner and waster and its context, chivalry, law, and economic in the 14th century England. And as we say that it is related to the contemporary economic crisis of the time, somewhere around 3050s, and that even the title of the book is also saying the same thing. And the next in the list is the Poema Morale. It is also called the Moral Ode. It is comprising 400 lines as compared to other. It is a smaller poem. It deals with the theme of mutability and repentance. It laments over the wasted opportunity and badly and indifferently spent youth. It puts stress on doing good deeds and abstaining from sins. It asks people to keep in mind the day of judgment and thought of hell and paradise ever before them while doing any deed. So, all in all, if you are going to do anything, just remember that for bad works you will go to heaven and have repent, and for good deeds you will go to heaven. And that is the title itself, saying Poema Moral means the moral ode will tell people how they should be moral in their life, and this is what we have. And the next is Cursor Mundi, the history of the world. The title, another we have. The poem is written somewhere around 3020 and contains somewhere around 30,000 lines. It is a longer poem. You can also compare it to an epic. It survived in 7 manuscripts. The poem is written in autosyllabic couplets, and it not only instructs but also amuses people. The poet has made the ignorant masses acquainted with the biblical stories and legend. The poem presents man's spiritual development and history from the creation to the last judgment, that is divided into 7 ages. The poem Cursor Mundi describes the story of fall of angels, the creation of man, and the loss of paradise. And you can find similar like the Paradise Lost. Everything is there. Or Genesis, you can find over there. Genesis A and B, we have discussed this in Anglo-Saxon era. You can have all things over there. The poem also presents the tale of the death of Adam and prophecies covering the birth of Jesus Christ and the parentage of Virgin Mary. There is also a description of Christ's life and death, resurrection, and descent into hell. It also followed by the description of ascension into the heaven, the history of Jesus Christ apostle, and the discovery of the cross by Saint Helena. And this part is having several kind of things, and in the last part of the poem, the poet described the arrival of the Antichrist, the day of last judgment, and the state of the world afterward. The poem also unfolds the agony of Virgin Mary at the foot of the cross. There is fine blending of biblical story and medieval legend in Cursor Mundi. The poem contains story of 3 pipes of cedar, cypress, and pine. These are name of trees. Those pipes were brought by Seth from the paradise, and the pipes are placed under Adam's tongue, and from which grew 3 miraculous vents. These vents were green, and they lasted until the day of Noah, Abraham, and Moses. David discovered these vents in the grave of Moses and Brut. The vents gave miraculous properties. They can change the black Saracens into white men, cure the sick man, and when they are put into cisterns, strike roots so deep that no one can dig them out. The tree is enclosed within a temple, and the cross is made from wood. Once a lady comes to the temple to worship and sat upon the tree. As soon as she sat on the tree, it suddenly burst into flame. The lady prophesied that Jesus Christ would hang upon the tree. When the Jews heard this prophecy made by the lady, they beheaded her. The soul of lady was carried by angel and hailed her as Christian. Thus, the poem Cursor Mundi comprising many interesting tales, including of monks, Solomon, Harold, etc. So that is the content we are having, Cursor Mundi, and this is several short stories you can say, and these are tale like Panchtantra we have with us, and that is more about the story from different life of people, Adam, Eve, Saturn, fall of angel, Christ, Antichrist, and all other Virgin Mary or whatever is related to biblical era. And next poem is the Ormulum. It is a poem written in the early part of 13th century, composed by Ormulum, an Augustinian monk. The poem is perhaps the gospel and homily into blank verse and contains somewhere around 10,000 lines. The poem is sacred for the Norman words, and Ormulum is the quintessence of the East Midland dialect. There is absence of rhyme and alliteration, and the poem reflects clarity, simplicity, and iambic verse of 15 syllables. So you can just, the more important thing, the poem is incomplete. You can take the screenshot of it. That would be more, you can read about the poem, and this is what we have, this Ormulum. And Genesis and Exodus. This Old English poem have great significance in the literary arena. Holy Bible reached the doorstep of common people with this poem. Secondly, it is the oldest poem in the style of the French clerics was employed adoringly. It is having 4,000 lines, rhyming couplet, and describes scriptural history from creation to the death of Moses. It is based partly on the Holy Bible. This is what we have, and this poem is small as compared to other, and Robert Mannion of Bernays, Handum sign. It is written in autosyllabic, a verse based on 10 commandments and 7 deadly sins. It is adapted from William of Wellington's French word, Manuel's Day passage. It deals with sin under various headings: 12 articles of faith, 7 deadly sins, the 7 sacraments. It also comments on the 12 requisites of the serif and the 12 graces which are bestowed upon men due to good confessing. And it again continued that it throws light on the contemporary issues, custom, and social life of people. Poet talks of Saturday as a half holiday. Holiday is the old spelling. He asks people not to gamble and visit tavern on holidays, and tournaments, games, jousts are bad because these activity involves 7 deadly sins. Similarly, dances, carols, summer games should also be abhorred. The poet further states that no miracle plays should be performed except the plays of Jesus Christ's birth and resurrection. The poet is against the carols and games because these are performed in the churchyard. If people participate in the games inside the churchyard, they are guilty of sacrilege. The poem also contains many stories, but the most important one is the dancer of callback, or the story of the chorus dancer. The story deals with the dancing of the revelers who are incessantly dance in churchyard, and even priest's daughter is also accompanying the dancer. When the priest reaches there, they do not pay attention to him, so he cursed them that they will continue dancing incessantly for the next whole year. As a result, at the end of the year, the priest's daughter collapses and dies. That is the poem we have, and now come the second section, that is prose romance. And as you can see that we are having 4 romances of England: King Horn, Havelok the Dane, Beliefs of Hampton, and Epsilon. And these are we having. Prose romance is a term present the tale of adventure, quest, brave deed, religious faith, chivalry, romance in verse on prose. It also contains the element of magic, spells, and role of supernatural. The term romance refers to a work of art written in French language sprung out of the Latin dialect. In the medieval or chivalric, romance has idealized characters and set in the distant and remote places. The readers can observe difference between the medieval romance and epic. The epic deals with heroism, where medieval romance deals with the courtly love. The medieval romance primarily presents the story of knights, queen, prince, princess, nobleman, feudal knights. It has nothing to do with the ordinary people. The medieval romance also shares some features of chanson de geste. We will read about this later on, which means some song of deeds, and which was in vogue between 11th to 14th century. We will read this chanson de geste on the later slides, not here. And there are 4 types of romance. The narrative of the medieval romance closely associated with the 4 cycle. The first group, called Matter of Rome, it presents story of the classical legend and myth. of Alexander the Great, the heroes of Trojan wars and thieves. The second cycle represents Matter of France, which deals with the stories of Carloman and his knights. The third, called Matter of Britain, comprises story of King Arthur and his knights of the Round Table. Many stories are added to Geoffrey of Monmouth's prose work Historia Regum Britannia. We will read about Geoffrey of Monmouth Historia Regum Britannia later on, not here. Fourth cycle deals with the matter of England, which present exploits of the heroes such as King Horn, Guy of Warwick, and Bevis of Hampton. And these are the four cycle. And out of these four cycle, look at the third one. The cycle comprise the stories of King Arthur and his Knight of Round Table. What is this Round Table? Let's understand. The French poet Weiss in Roman de Brut introduced the Round Table. Layamon based his poem Le Brut on Weiss' French translation called Roman de Brut. In the poem, Brut has sung King Arthur and his Knight of Round Table for the first time. There is a fine blending of line, rhyme, couplet, unequal length. There is also artistic use of similes in the poem. There is a pictorial description of the life of Saxon warriors, battle, wildlife, and life in the forest and fields rather than chivalry and romance of Norman court. Layamon introduced the story of passing of King Arthur by boat. The French poet Christian de Tyros in Languedoc added an episode of romance between Queen Guinevere and Sir Lancelot. He also expanded the story of Sir Percival and the quest of the Holy Grail in his poem Percival. Thus, the narrative regarding the matter of Britain developed gradually with the passing of time, and this is the main content of this round table. More focus on British legend, tale, and their knights, especially the people following King Arthur. And now we are going with these stories. The King Horn is more famous, and that King Horn, you can see a medieval romance, and Kevin Crossley Holland in the picture you can see, and metrical romance comprising 1545 lines. The story of King Horn is the oldest one, and its root can be traced back to the turbulent time of Danish invasion. Horn is son of King Murray and Queen Godhai. Horn has 12 companions, but he is more intimate to two whom he loved more than, and these two are Athelf and Fikentyre. One day, King sees 15 ships filled with the Saracens. In the combat, King Murray and his soldiers are slain. So King Murray is no more, he's dead. Enemy destroy churches and kill people. Queen Godhild take refuge in a cave where she continues to observe Christian rite and prayer. Horn as his companion are cast adrift in a boat. They meet King Layamon. King Layamon appoints Athabers as Horn's tutor. And now comes the love story. Horn learn hunting, fishing, playing the harp, and serving the cup. And in between, King's daughter, Ramanhild, falls in love with Horn. Arthabus arrange a clandestine meeting between Horn and Ramanhild. And both lover Horn and Ramanhild are meeting, and they are discussing their love affair. She proposes him, but he refuses, because his status was not as he thinking. On hearing Horn's decision, Ramanhild faints away. Horn carries her in his strong arms and caresses her. He promised to marry if she helps him to become a knight. And that is the half of the story. And later on, what we find, King Layamon declares knighthood of Horn and his companion. And now his status is raised, and Horn thinks that he must win honor and deserve Ramanhild by heroic deed. Horn is betrayed by his intimate friend, Fikenhild, who tells King that Horn is plotting to kill him. In the end, Horn seeks help from King Thurston to carry out his plan. He reaches the castle of Fikenhild, who has confined Ramanhild in his castle. Horn appears in the castle in the garb of a pilgrim and meets Ramanhild. He reveals his identity to her. Treachery of Fikenhild is now exposed. Horn kills Pykenhild in the end, Hone wishes to conquer his kingdom and avenge his father's death before he marries Ravenhild. Hone wins over his enemy and gets back his kingdom. In the end, Hone finds his mother safe and alive. Now take Ravenhild to be his queen. And you can see that it is again a glory of person, how his father is killed, he lost his kingdom, he meet another king, fall in love with his daughter, then a plot against him, he killed his enemy, then he go back again and avenge those people who killed his father, take his kingdom back, find his mother, and now he's having a queen. So this is a happy ending, and although story begins with a tragedy but ended in a comedy, and everything is fine at the end. Lay of the Havelok of the Dane is the poem that we have, and it is having somewhere around 3,000 lines, and verse romance again. It is having its origin in England. It was probably composed in the reign of Edward the First, somewhere around 1280. It can be found in the manuscript as Loud MS. It is an interesting poem describing the stories of Havelok and Goldborough. She was the only daughter of Ethelwulf, who finally administered his kingdom and maintained law and order in his country. Ethelwulf knew that death is at hand, so he summons his lord to seek their advice. The lord told Ethelwulf that Earl of Godrich of Cornwall would be the best guardian for his daughter, Goldborough. Some days go by and Ethelwulf dies. The Earl swears solemn oath to protect Goldborough to king. After the death of Ethelwulf, Godro take control of kingdom and sent Goldborough to Dover in his confinement. He confines her in his castle in Dover. The story moves on from England to Denmark now. The king of Denmark, called Birkebein, is also on the verge of death. He asks Earl Godred to protect his three children. Earl Godred promised to look after the three children of the king. After king death, he confines them. Thus, both of the story of Goldborough and Havelok run some parallel lines. Three children, Havelok, and two sisters called Swanborough and Halfid are locked up in a castle. Children get hungry as they were confined in the castle. They ask for food, but ruthless Godred cuts the throat of two sisters of Havelok. Godard is an alter ego of Godric. So now you can find that two stories and two person, both are different. One is taking care of king's children, and second is killing them and not even giving them food. This is the main story, and the story continues. Havelok seeks pardon and asks Godred to spare his life, and also tells him that he will leave Denmark, not to come there again. For a moment, Godred feels pity for the boy and summons Grim, a fisherman. He orders Grim to throw Havelok into the sea. The Grim carries out order. He puts Havelok in the sack and throws Havelok to the house. Grim's wife, Dame, leaves, sees an aura around Havelok. She tells Grim about the strange thing. This Grim also finds the royal mark on the Havelok's shoulder. He begs pardon of Havelok and promises to keep this thing in secret. Grim pretends to Godred that he has carried out the orders given to him, and he decides to leave the country along with his family and Havelok. The north wind drives his boat to England, where the heroine of the story is in pain and she is in confinement of Godric. The time swiftly passed. Havelok is now grown up young man. He thinks that it is time to do something to earn his livelihood. He decides to sell this, but when dearth arises, Grim's family and Havelok's have to abandon their work. Grim advised Havelok to go to Lincoln to so that he can get some kind of work there. And in Lincoln, Havelok gets service with the Earl's cook. Havelok's strong physique leaves great impression on the people of Lincoln. Earl Godrich also remembers his promise which he had given to King Ethelwulf, that he too find a suitable person for Goldborough. He resolved to marry Godboro to Havelok, for he is a perfect match for her. But Godboro refuses to marry Havelok, for she has declared to marry none but a king. At last, both Havelok and Godboro give their consent when Godrich puts pressure on them. The marriage of Havelok and Godboro is accomplished, and they both dwell in Grim's house. At night, Godboro sees a light coming out of Havelok's mouth, and she also finds a royal sign of red cross on Havelok's shoulder. Suddenly, an angel appears and tells her that Havelok shall be king and she shall be queen. Godboro gets happy when she hears this news. Havelok also awakens from the dream in which he is told to regain his kingdom of Denmark. Havelok, along with the Grimm family, reaches Denmark. He seeks help from Abe, who invite Havelok to his house. They have grand feast at Abe's house. The family and Havelok are then sent to the house of Benrat. At night, 61 thieves break into the house. Havelok fights with them and kills 21 of them. He received the same number of wounds on his body. All thieves are slain by Havelok. And in the end, when the Urbs come to know about the whole affair, he takes him to his castle. Ub sees an aura around Havelok at night. He also found a royal mark on Havelok's back. He suddenly comes to know that Havelok is Berkebine's son and heir to the throne. He summons all the lords and tells them the story and asks them to be faithful and loyal to Havelok, the real heir to the throne. The order of Abe are carried out. Godard is captured and taken to Havelok. The case of Godard is judged by the earls and courtiers. Godard receives a death sentence for treachery. Havelok then goes to Grimsby and captivates Godrich after the terrible battle. Godrich, like Godard, is also received the same punishment. English people accept Godboro as their queen. Havelok gives reward to all those who supported him during the days of adversity. The Danish people return home and Godboro and Havelok stay in England for 60 years. The poem Lay of the Havelok of Dane thus ends happy and having happy end. So this is the poem we have, and all things are totally different from one another. The next poem that we have is the Guy of Warwick, that is containing 1300 lines, and the poem is divided in three parts dealing with love story of Guy of Warwick and Fels, daughter of Rohal, Earl of Warwick. There is fine description of Fels' beauty and intelligence. She has mastered 7 arts. Many dukes and earls cherish a dream to marry Fels, but all their efforts go in vain. Guy is a son of Sivard, a faithful steward of Rohan, Earl of Warwick. He is a promising and handsome young man. Guy is best at woodcraft and is well taught the courtier. So this is the story that we have, and now come to some French part. And Maria de France is a women poet, and she is considered the first female poet of France. Her other published works are Laius, including Arthurian works, Saberfuel and Levenal. Laius of Lee Marie de France are dedicated to a noble king who is most likely Henry II. But precisely how Mary meant this dedication is unclear. Aesop Fables, a translation from Middle English to French and other fable. Aesop Fable is one of the most popular book, and it is highly popular among children. And many of the short stories that you hear in your childhood, like the Thirsty Crow, for honesty is the best policy, or a farmer and her 4 sons, greedy dog, and others. So these are from this Aesop fable. The third work is Patrick's Purgatory, also known as the Legend of the Purgatory of Saint Patrick. So these are the work of Maria de France, who is a women poet. So around the 12th century, we are having women poet, but many a time these are not counted. And her here is her portrait that is painted by some artist unknown. And now we are coming to Hysteria Regum Britannia somewhere around 1936, and it is Geoffrey Monmouth. History of King of Britain, that is originally called the Justice Briton, on the deeds of Britain. It is a pseudo-historical account on the life of King of Britain over a span of 2000 years, and from the Trojan War to the Anglo-Saxon age. This is divided into 12 books, and there are several stories. It is popular till 14th century, but there are several incidents which are not given in correct way here. That's why this book is not reliable now, and several king and queen are mentioned here, and even it is also telling how Julius Caesar attacked England and have his rule on England. So there are several stories which cannot giving the exact details over here. That's why this book is not popular among the modern people. And Charleston de Castell, as we were discussing it, it is a song of Dee, the epic poem of some 4,000 lines that we have. And this is the most part that we have of Anglo Norman era. But there are several more things that we are having that in case of English literature, if you go, mostly the name of poet or the stories or the king or the poets are more important. Rarely question like who is Octus Libic or the structure is not asked, and from or the setting of which poem is where it is asked. So these questions are rare, and most importantly, the poems can come like which poem is of Geoffrey of Monmouth, or how these poems are related to which poet, or in which century, or sometime poem can be given from which age it belongs. Is it age of Chaucer, age of Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Norman, or Renaissance? In this way, you have to find things, or sometime it can be also asked whether it is a prose, romance, epic, or sometime you can there can be either it is history or narrative, and so on. So these questions are in this way, and this is what we have from this age. And if you like the video, do subscribe to our channel, and with this I will say thank you, take care.